What opinion or behavior would stop you being romantically interested in someone even if they ticked every other box? Actually tonight my GF said I love everything about you, but watching you eat unpeeled kiwis like they're apples really freaks me out. As long as you kill the kiwi first, eating the burb alive is just cruel. Taking out the digestive tract helps too. Went on a hiking date with someone who littered. There was no second date. Don't litter y'all. It's selfish and ruins the trails for everyone else. I don't get people who hike and litter. Like, let's travel 1-2 hours away from home to go walking in this beautiful wilderness and litter. If you don't care about the environment and want to litter, just find an urban area to go walking. At least then it won't matter as much when you litter, and it will be about the same distance and difficulty as many hikes. I had an ex who consistently lied and omitted things. Usually not about anything huge, but she had a habit of it and didn't seem to think it was wrong. The longer we dated, the worse it got. Eventually it really divided us because I couldn't trust anything she said. From then on, if I discovered I was with someone who lied often as a tactic to get what they want, to avoid consequences, etc., that was pretty much the end of the relationship for me. I had a 3-year relationship with someone who lied about literally everything. It was a total mindfrick because it took me a long time to realize that he was lying all the time, about even tiny things. I left him because of this, but it broke my bloody heart as we had a fun life together. In time I realized you can't be with someone like that. Just no integrity at all. If the person you are dating makes you feel small, not in a physical sense but like you're less than them, I've learned that's my first sign to book it out of there. Not being a critical thinker, I've thought of a whole laundry list of things that would be deal breakers, but they all boil down to whether or not he could think critically. And not the contrarianism mistaken for critical thinker kind. Actual critical thinking that follows deductive and inductive logic, and minimizing logical fallacies. Minimizing my accomplishments. I knew this woman, and if I said something like, I got a promotion at work, instead of saying that it was great and that I was great at my job, she'd say something like, yeah well didn't you say Bill has really been helping you out with stuff? Or if I said, I finally beat an Ironman run of XCOM 2, she'd say, I wish you'd find a more productive hobby. I wish you'd find a more productive hobby, like fashioning some stirrups for her high horse. Being condescending. I hate it. It makes me angry. Be nice to people, except they may not be as knowledgeable as you on a subject. Don't condescend. Hoarding. I made this mistake once. I got into a relationship with a hoarder. I eventually realized that her deeply dysfunctional relationship to objects extended to the people around her. I was not an actual person. I was just another acquisition that was acquired and subsequently treated shabbily. I'm not sure if this is common, but I won't take the chance again. If they don't even attempt to get along with my friends, or watching videos on your phone, volume all the way up at a restaurant, on a double date. Believe or not, I dated a guy that did both, and I cringe thinking back on it. When anyone cranks up their tinny phone speakers in public, I cringe so hard even thinking about those situations. He told me he would much rather make small talk with a stranger than have a deep conversation with good friends. I don't know why I didn't see it before, but that described perfectly why we never connected on a deeper level after being together for 2 years. We tried, but I couldn't make it work after that realization. Weirdly, it sounds like you finally had an almost deep conversation and he turned out to be a veritable stranger. If only he had stuck to his original rules. My ex-boyfriend would always say, oh no, you want to do this, not that every time I talked about doing something one way, it even crossed over into me researching buying gear for backpacking or biking, etc. He always seemed to know better than me, and I will not ever be able to be with someone again who tells me what to do, what to buy, makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing. The one that surprised me about myself was a whiny voice. Person had everything else going for them, but after a few hours I just couldn't stand the thought of listening to that voice over the long haul. Same, I went out with one who I swear I was debating if I should just say frick it and leave. She didn't shut up, and her voice was like a weird mix of raspy cigarette voice mixed with a child's. Was horrible, made my freaking ears hurt. The need to constantly be on your phone. Totally fine with spending a lot of time on it, but if you can't put it down to watch a movie or have a conversation, then it's a problem. Sometimes I just pause what I'm saying and wait if I get the sense I don't have someone's attention. Had an ex where this happened. My best friend's little sister died in a car crash and I was torn up about it. He became indifferent towards me because I was too depressed to be with. If someone can't handle being a decent human being when I'm heartbroken, what are they going to act like when it's my mom, dad, dog even? Whoops, sorry, but I don't wanna hang out because you're sad. Younger, I got dumped because I cried about my pet rabbit dying. I kept crying for the bun, but never did for the girl, lol. It's not what a man would do, frick that. Dishonesty. If you notice the person you're interested in tells fibs or little white lies early on, it's only going to be catastrophic once you clear the honeymoon phase. I learned they kept important information completely under wraps. It popped up and destroyed my trust in them. So not lying but not being completely open was bad. 2. Being obsessed with social media or needing to document everything all the time and project a perfect version of their life. I had a boss like this. Everything was a freaking photo shoot just so she could post on social media that she could prove to her haters that she had a life. Miserable. Entitled behavior. People who act like the world owes them everything when they were raised with more than most people. People who demand respect but treat others poorly. Friend went on a date where the girl virtually had a tantrum at the waitstaff until she got what she wanted, when it was her fuck up, and then looked incredibly self-satisfied and smiled at him as if he should be proud of her. Nope. Arrived separately, left separately. Not having a capacity for compassion or empathy for others, including animals. Being too clingy too quickly. Had a girl tell me she loved me after 4 hours of talking, asking why I'm not responding, etc. It was an absolute no. Classic schmossby. Dated a guy and the first month he was perfect and I was quickly falling for him. One day he said, "My ex broke up with me and I fricked his life up for it, haha." Turned all his friends on him. "Don't frick with me." He said it like it was funny and he was proud. Immediate red flag, and I instantly started thinking about how I got a breakup with him. Something similar happened to me with a guy that wanted to date me. He tried to impress me by bragging about how he lied in court about his ex to get full custody of their kids, and ruined her life. If he was trying to be scary, it worked. Gatekeepers. You know, the sort of people that think listening to modern music is gay, and that I should listen to what they listen to. The sort of people that'd forbid you from being involved in anything they don't like. I don't think you've truly been with a real gatekeeper until they call modern music super gay. Like, I see what you're saying, but that's more of a light gatekeeping tendency. You just haven't experienced a real gatekeeper yet. Someone who is overly judgmental wishes death on someone just because they think differently to them, thinks they're the smartest person in the room. I met a guy like this and it came totally out of the blue for me because he had previously been everything I wanted. Then suddenly he's explaining to me why he hates most women and why the government needs to be redone with his values at the forefront. I have a co-worker who constantly tells me, women have too many rights in this country. He is a serial cheater though, and has his wages garnished for child support from more than one woman. So I guess we know where that attitude comes from. If I'm in a depressive mood, yes, I have depression. No, I don't let it control my life, and some days are better than others. By mood I mean a bad depression day when I can't get out of bed, just telling me to get over it, or better yet getting mad at me for being sad. Good news, haven't had a depressive day in bed since leaving that ex. My ex would get mad at me for being depressed. He always thought it was him that was making me depressed, even though I told him many times that it wasn't. He'd just get pee at me. Glad I'm away from that a-hole. My late father once tried to set me up with a woman from his church that he thought I should marry. I indulged him because, frankly, I was curious to see what traits he thought a good wife for me would have. I was visiting my parents at the time and he invited her to lunch with us after church. I am not religious, but used to indulge him on attending church, too. By the way, I was seriously dating someone at the time, a woman who is now my wife, and he knew this. Anyway, 5 minutes into the conversation I mentioned something I had read and her immediate response was, and I quote, "Oh, I hate reading. Matter of fact, like, I don't think I've ever lost interest in a conversation so quickly." She did not tick many of my other boxes either, but that was hilariously off base. Ablism. Ask girl out, meet at date, and all is going well until we start chatting about high school and those innocent regrets everyone has, like trying too hard to fit in with a certain crowd, or going heads over heels for honors programs. Menial stuff. Except included in her regrets was doing a walkathon event for autism awareness, in which she called it a tard race. She then proceeded to give me her explicit opinion on how retards shouldn't be in school, don't deserve a public education, and how they're basically non-human. Don't think I've ever been so suddenly disgusted by an individual. OMGEE. I have no idea why my hand grabbed my drink and threw it on you. I swear, it only happens around small-minded Moro. Never mind. Colorism. I can't count on both hands how many black men I have talked to and really liked until they started on their tangents about dark-skinned women. It's immediately a turn off and I take it quite personally even though I am mixed. They somehow think I'll agree with their ridiculous ideology when my grandmother, aunts, uncle, and father are dark-skinned. Bless. Thank you for seeing how problematic that is. I've shared this before, but one time I went out on a first date with this girl I met online. I thought she was very attractive and we had so much common that I thought she was perfect. In addition to that, we seemed to hit off well through texts, so I figured this date would go well. We're at this bar and she suggests we play a people watching game where we try to make up backstories for the other people there. I thought it sounded fun, especially since I played a similar game with friends on the train sometimes. Plus it felt like a good icebreaker to get us talking. Well, she managed to take all the fun out the game by being ridiculously cruel in all her assumptions for no real reason at all. It felt like she was projecting issues she had onto these people. Like one guy was sitting at the bar alone, could have been waiting for someone. You never know, but because he was alone he was a freaking loser with no friends that hates his life. He completely killed the mood and I lost all interest in her after that. I just couldn't see myself going on a second date with someone like that, even if she checked all other boxes. I've gone on dates with a couple people who proudly mentioned though jealousy was important in a relationship. That's an automatic no from me. I don't want someone questioning every time I hang out with a friend or getting paranoid if I'm not in contact for more than a few hours. I dated a really great girl in high school. Cute, sweet as could be, big-hearted, but she and her family were just really into Jesus. And I'm most definitely not, and so we dated for a very long time but never clicked on that deeply personal level that we both wanted, and so went our separate way on good terms, aided by her moving off for school. This might get buried or downvoted, but I've gone on one too many first dates with people who just talked at me the entire time. To the point where if I'm on a date with someone new and they start doing this, my brain starts to shut down and I immediately start losing interest. I get that people are nervous on first dates and probably talk more just to fill the silence, but like, don't you want to know who I am? Maybe just a little bit. Like, ask me some questions. Give yourself a break from talking. It blows my mind when this happens and then at the end they say, oh, I really like you. You're great, but they literally know nothing about me because I just spent the last 2-3 hours listening to them talk about themselves the entire time. Went on a date like this once and it was awful. The other person didn't ask me one question about myself, just talked about him, his life and his family drama the entire time. Toxic positivity. My workplace is so steeped in the whole good vibes only and you attract what you feel garbage. And it's just exhausting. If I'm having a bad day, it's not because I'm a bad person. Bro, sometimes life happens. Oh, I hate that. Sometimes the most constructive and positive thing you can do is accept the fact that you're having a bad moment and push on regardless. It's okay to not be happy all the time. Doesn't mean you have a bad life. Doesn't respect my opinion or always shooting me down. I recently mustered up the courage to distance myself from some friends because of the same thing. Current BF asks my opinion frequently and I appreciate that. We don't always have to agree, but I'm not a butthole for having an opinion. I broke up with a girlfriend in college and she went nuts. Tried every trick in the book and then eventually told me she would forever and always do whatever I wanted. Just say the words and I'll take me shirt off. Whatever you want. Whenever. I thought that was really weird, and I didn't like the idea of being with someone who was so much more into me than I was to them. Animal pet abuse. Those pieces of crap who think it's okay to abuse animals. I'm not talking hunting, I'm talking kicking their dog or not caring for it at all, not feeding it, or even leaving it outside in the winter, especially with breeds that can't. Bad table manners, especially speaking with your mouth filled with food you just chewed, and disrespectful to family and friends. Egotistical, huge turn off. Being casually mean or inconsiderate to people, cutting other cars off, taking a parking space that someone is waiting for, immediately leaving a conversation with someone when they see someone else more interesting. I was talking to this guy on an app, and he asked me if I had any odd hobbies. I told him I like to just people watch, make stories about who they are, whatever. Asked him, and he said, I like to chase people, strangers, at night, in my car. It's funny when they get scared. Immediately told him it wasn't going to work out. Being disrespectful to someone that is working low paying customer service job. A job is a freaking job. They are not beneath you. They have feelings just like you do. We are all trying to make it in this world. I stopped dating a guy solely because when I saw him eat for the first time he chewed with his mouth open. I'm talking, I saw every morsel of food in his mouth simultaneously while he was talking. Huge deal breaker for me. Being anti-vaccine or a flat earth person. Actually, never mind, the post said every box and intelligence is one of my boxes. If they're rude or mean to anyone. Bad financial habits and unwilling to learn better ones. No car insurance, no health insurance, no retirement savings, good top of the line TV, cell phone, and insurance, laptop, apartment, and very expensive car, etc. I understand people have different financial situations, but having bad habits and misaligned priorities and not willing to learn how to fix it makes planning for long-term goals together as a couple family hard. If they're one of those people who when you're arguing you can tell they're not even listening to you and instead just plotting what they're going to say in rebuttal. Dudes who try to bring me up by putting down other women. It's a crappy method of complimenting someone when you think they'll be pleased with your negative opinions about other people. I get pegged somewhat often as a not like other girls type because of the way I dress and some of my interests. There's a certain type of person who thinks that means I want to put down traditionally feminine girls with traditionally feminine interests, but that's the quickest way to get me to lose your number permanently. I used to live in an apt complex. My neighbor was single F with a 5-0. I was single. We started socializing, hanging out, going places together. Hooked up a couple times and the sex was okay. A good friend of mine sent me a set of 2 dolls, boy and girl, that his kid made in art class for me and wanted me to have. The next time the neighbor in question came in my house, the first thing she said is, "What are those 2 little Nick babies doing on your bookshelf?" It took me a second to realize she was talking about the dolls. My friend and his family are black, so the dolls were black. Flabbergasted so bad I couldn't speak and simply asked her to leave because I was not feeling well. Only spoke to her a couple times after that. I do miss the kid, she was a sweetie. So racism is my trigger. Race bigotry. Definitions are hard. You don't have to love everybody, but don't hate a stranger because they are different. Not believing in space. I met someone who didn't believe in space. Outer space. Inner space. Kuiper belt. Nope. None of it. I asked what he thought was out there and he said nothing. It's God. He thought it was a conspiracy and just the government lying. It was mind-boggling. I honestly didn't hear anything after that. My brain just started tuning him out. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.